Hello and welcome. Today we're looking at a piece that uses fictional characters like Miss England and Grandpa New Zealand to explain Vietnamese dietary guidelines for seniors.
It's definitely one of the more creative approaches to geriatric health we've seen.
Creative is one word for it. You have these characters acting out a whole scene with props and jokes to discuss caloric reduction.
Right, and that's the immediate impression, isn't it? It feels like a children's book has sort of crashed into a medical journal.
Exactly. That collision is where we have to start. The whimsical narrative device, while engaging, it risks undermining the perceived authority of the medical data.
You've really hit on the core tension. The whole goal of this piece is to get an older person, or maybe their caregiver, to make some really big changes to their diet.
Serious, life-altering changes.
And then you have a character clutching imaginary pearls. It creates a tonal clash.
Yeah, if I'm a 60-year-old looking for help with, say, malnutrition, and I pick this up, I might feel a bit patronized.
It's a risk. It creates a kind of trust gap. If the messenger is a caricature, I might subconsciously treat the message as less serious.
So when Miss England starts giving this very specific, rigorous advice about a 1,700-calorie limit, the reader has to do this mental gear shift.
They have to strip away the clown suit to get to the doctor underneath.
But to play devil's advocate, medical text is boring. It's dry. Isn't this whimsy just a necessary hook to keep people reading?
A hook is fine, but it has to be the right kind of hook. I mean, you can be engaging without being cartoonish.
The problem isn't the characters themselves.
It's the type of characters. Yes, it's that they're these broad national stereotypes doing slapstick.
So how do we fix that? Because I don't think we want to tell the author to scrap the dialogue format. It's actually very readable.
I agree. The back and forth rhythm is great for breaking up the data. I think the fix is to shift the archetypes.
Make them more grounded in reality?
Exactly. Imagine if instead of Miss England with her laser pointer, the character was, say, Aunt Mai, the retired nurse.
Oh, that instantly changes the vibe.
Her authority comes from competence and her relationship to Grandpa, not from a prop. If a retired nurse tells me to eat less sugar, I listen.
Right. A caricature tells me, and I might just laugh.
And you can just strip away a lot of the stage directions, the pearl clutching, the dramatic whispering. Let the dialogue do the work.
Or maybe just use the narrative to bookend the piece.
That's another strong option. You could have the tea time story for the intro and outro, but for the hard science about insulin spikes, switch to clear, direct prose.
It respects the reader's intelligence. Okay, and speaking of things that don't quite line up, there's another issue.
The data itself?
Yeah, the integration of specific Vietnamese dietary standards into a story with Western-coded characters creates a confusing cultural disconnect.
It really does. The text is very clear that these are Vietnamese dietary recommendations. It calls for a diet that's 68% cereals and grains.
Which makes sense for that region. But it's being delivered by Miss England and Mr. America.
And that's where the logic starts to break down. You have a character named after a country known for, high meat consumption, telling Grandpa to fill his plate mostly with rice.
It is jarring. I found myself thinking, wait, is this advice for me? Am I, as a Western reader, supposed to eat like a Vietnamese elder?
It creates so much confusion about who the advice is for. If it's for a Vietnamese audience, then the characters are sending all the wrong cultural cues.
It's like asking a cowboy to teach you how to make sushi. You'd start to doubt the recipe.
So if the author wants to keep that core dietary data, they need to fix the messengers.
How would you do that?
Well, there are two ways, I think. One, you lean into it. You have Mr. America actually say something like, back home we eat huge steaks, but the guidelines here are different.
You acknowledge the difference, so the reader knows it's intentional.
Exactly. But honestly, the cleaner solution is probably just to localize the characters. If the advice is Vietnamese, make the characters Vietnamese.
Mr. Tuan and Miss Lan.
Something like that. Then the heavy emphasis on rice and grains feels completely natural. It fits the world of the story.
It just removes all that friction for the reader.
And we want to remove friction, because the next hurdle in this piece is just a wall of math.
The percentages, the reliance on abstract percentages and caloric numbers, fails to give the reader a visual understanding of a healthy meal.
There are so many numbers. 18% fat, 14% protein, 68% carbs, a BMI range of 18.5 to 22.9.
It's very data heavy. And the problem isn't that the data is wrong, It's just, what is Grandpa New Zealand supposed to do with that information at dinner time?
I can't even visualize 14% protein on my own plate.
Nobody can. That's the issue. An older reader can't look at a piece of chicken and calculate the lipid percentage.
And the text offers these vague phrases like moderation is key, but moderation means different things to different people.
For me, it might be one cookie. For Grandpa, it might be the whole sleeve.
So we have to translate the math into mechanics. We need to bridge the gap between the spreadsheet and the dinner plate.
So instead of Ms. England saying, ensure your diet is 68% grains, what could she say?
She needs to paint a picture for him. Grandpa, look at your bowl. 2/3 of it should be filled with brown rice or oats. The little bit at the top, that's for your meat and vegetables.
That is so much better. 2/3 of the bowl. I can see that. I can do that.
And you do the same thing for calories. 1,700 calories is a meaningless number to most people.
So translate it into meals.
Yeah. Have the characters say, that means a small bowl of soup for breakfast, a solid lunch, and then a very light dinner, and no second helpings.
The no second helpings part is the actual behavior change. That's key.
Right. And what about the BMI calculation? The joke about Grandpa's pie collection is funny, but it highlights a problem. Is he really going to get out a calculator?
Probably not. Asking him to do math before he eats is a great way to make sure he just ignores the advice.
So give him a metric he can actually use, like waist circumference. Keep your waist measurement below this number.
Or even simpler, if these pants start feeling tight, we have a problem.
It's immediate, physical feedback.
You have to assume the reader doesn't want to work hard to understand. You give them a picture, you help them, make them do math, you lose them. Which brings us to the final and I think maybe the most critical point, the why.
The biology.
Yeah, the explanation of why biological changes happen is sometimes sacrificed for a joke, and that's a missed opportunity.
It is. The science is in there, but the execution is frustrating because the author keeps stepping on their own toes.
What do you mean by that?
They'll introduce a really serious biological mechanism, but then they immediately undercut it with a punchline before the reader can process why it matters.
I saw that in the protein section. It mentions that older people have less stomach acid, which makes it harder to digest meat, and that can lead to
Harmful fermentation in the colon.
harmful fermentation producing toxins. I mean, that is a terrifying, visceral image. It's a powerful motivator. If I think a steak is gonna rot in my gut, I'm gonna think twice. But in the text, Mr. America immediately jumps in with a joke about eating 5 steaks a day.
And the tension is released. The fear, which was actually useful, just evaporates. The author is prioritizing the joke over the physiological explanation.
But for this audience, understanding the why is everything. That's what drives long-term compliance, right?
Absolutely. You can't just tell an adult, don't do that. They need to understand the mechanism. If you explain, look, your pancreas is like an old engine. It can't handle a flood of sugar anymore. They get it.
Let's look at the hydration section. The text mentions reduced thirst sensation. That felt like a big missed opportunity.
It's a huge issue in geriatrics. The brain literally stops sending the signal. You can be dangerously dehydrated and not even feel thirsty.
But the dialogue just kind of ends with Grandpa grumbling, fine, I'll drink some water.
Stop and explain, Grandpa, you can't trust your body on this anymore. Your thirst signal is broken. You have to drink by the clock, not by how you feel.
Drink by the clock. That's a life-saving distinction.
And it's the same for the muscle mass section, sarcopenia. The text just says muscle mass declines and moves on.
It makes it sound like an aesthetic frame. Like, oh, I'm losing my biceps.
We need to reframe that. Use the dialogue to explain that muscle isn't about looking like a bodybuilder. It's about not falling down the stairs. It's about balance. You connect protein intake to staying out of the hospital, the reader pays attention.
So it feels like the common thread here is that the author is slightly underestimating the reader.
I think that's a fair assessment. They're treating the audience with kid gloves, trying to entertain them with cartoons and shield them from the hard science. But older readers are smart. They just need the truth translated into language they can actually use.
They don't need a laser pointer, they need a roadmap.
Perfectly put. They need clarity, not caricature.
Okay, let's pull this all together. We have a piece with a really warm heart, but the execution needs a pretty significant pivot.
First, fix the frame. Ground the characters in reality, swap the stereotypes for relatable roles, like a nurse or a doctor in the family. Let the authority come from their knowledge, not from gimmicks.
Second, align the culture. You can't have Western characters delivering strict Eastern dietary advice without causing confusion. Either explain the difference, or even better, just make the characters match the advice.
Third, visualize the data. Stop throwing percentages around. Describe what the food looks like on the plate. Convert calories into meals and BMI into a waist measurement. Make the math invisible so the behavior becomes visible.
And finally, let the science breathe. Don't rush to the joke. When you introduce a powerful concept like a broken thirst signal, let the characters explain it fully. Let Grandpa's skepticism be the way you get to the why.
It's really about moving from entertainment to empowerment. The current draft entertains, but I'm not sure it empowers Grandpa to actually change his life. With these tweaks, it absolutely could.
I would love to see a version 2 of this. I think that scene explaining protein fermentation could be really powerful if it's done right.
And I want to hear exactly how much rice goes in that bowl.
To our listener, thank you for sending this in. It's a bold and creative piece. Take these ideas, apply them, and please send it back to us. We would love to see its evolution.
We certainly would.
That wraps up this critique. Keep writing, keep refining, and we'll see you next time.